morning, everyone. Since today we have so many languages, I decided that I will preach in Serbian, and then I will translate the. I'll skip to English. Before we go into the, you already know what's the point of the sermon. So before we talked about giants, I would like to start with one story about Larry Waters. I don't know if you heard of him. He was his dream was to be a pilot, and he had bad eyesight, so he could not fly, and so he ended up as a mechanic. So when he got retired, he decided he'll do something crazy. So he bought 45 balloons, you know, these balloons that are done for the atmospheric weathers and stuff that they send them up to measure. So he bought 45 of those balloons, and he bought a huge tank of helium. So he filled those balloons and tied them to a chair, and he tied that chair to the ground. And his idea was, I will cut the ropes and I will slowly start going up, and I'll fly. And when he cut the ropes, the balloons flew up, and they stopped on 3,300 meters. And for those that like airplanes, that is the height where planes fly. And they said that planes were going by and they saw him, and then the helicopter had to come and take him with the rope slowly down. And when they asked him, like, why you did something like this? And he said, a man can spend his whole life just sitting and doing nothing. And that is, I think it's a good reminder for us. It's very easy just to kind of sit and wait for things to happen and waiting for God to do His things. But we are not here, we are not supposed just to sit and wait and do nothing. And I would like us today to read and to look into the Old Testament, into the Jewish history, to see how God used one man, and He said, I will bless entire nation through you. And they ended up in Egypt, and the nation started growing. Pharaoh changed, that forgot what Joseph did for the nation, and Israelites became slaves there for years. And God gave them promise, He will bless all the nations through them. And finally, He sends Moses to take them out of the slavery, and they get to the promised land. They are about to get into the promised land, and God says to Moses, choose a, let's say, committee, choose from each tribe someone who is in leadership, and send them as spies to the land. Let's make sure, let's see the land that I'm giving to you. Check it, inspect it, see what's going on there, see what kind of nation lives there. Are they strong or weak? What kind of cities they have? Are these cities fortified? The walls, if they're big, and so on. And check the crops of the field. So Moses takes the men, he sends them out, and after a while they are coming back. So today I would like us to read from Numbers, from 13th chapter, from 25 until 33rd verse. So Numbers 13, 25 through to the end. At the end of the 40 days, they returned from exploring the land. They came back to Moses and Aaron and the whole Israelite community at Kadesh in the desert of Paran. There they reported to them and to the whole assembly and showed them the fruit of the land. They gave Moses this account. We went into the land to which you sent us, and it does flow with milk and honey. Here is its fruits. But the people who live there are powerful, and the cities are fortified and very large. We even saw descendants of Anak there. The Amalekites live in Negev. The Hittites, Jebusites, Amorites live in the hill country, and the Canaanites live near the sea and along the Jordan. Then Caleb silenced the people before Moses and said, we should go up and take possession of the land, for we can certainly do it. But the men who had gone up with him said, We can't attack those people. They are stronger than we are. And they spread among the Israelites a bad report about the land they had explored. They said, the land we explored devours those living in it. All the people we saw there are of great size. We saw the Nephilim there. The descendants of Anak come from the Nephilim. We seemed like grasshoppers in our own eyes, and we looked the same to them. It's quite known passage, and what I would like us to focus today, or to think about, where is our focus when we are surrounded by giants? Do we focus on our giant, or we remember God? Now, when we look into these couple of verses, we see spies coming from inspecting the land, and they have good report at the beginning. And then instead of focusing on God, they focus on giants. From 12 spies, how many spies focus on giants? 10 of them. Only 2 spies had their focus in right direction. And because of those 10, they had to circle wilderness a lot longer than they were supposed to. And we see from the beginning, from the opening of these verses, the anonymous and positive report. The land is great. There is really milk and honey flowing. The land is perfect. Even the fruit they brought, if we read previous chapter, we can see the grape. 2 of them had to carry grape because of its size. It's beautiful land. And then we have that word that very often we use, but. Everything is great. I love my job. I love everything. But there is this and this. This is super, and we can do it, but. And it's interesting that this word, Hebrew, that is verse used for but or nevertheless or whatever the translation is using, the picture is big letters but. So it's not like a small issue, but it's something huge, something serious. And the spies had opportunity to focus on God. They could remember what God did for them. If we just look into these couple of chapters until they get to the promised land, there were so many things that God did for them, but they focus on obstacles. And when we read, we can see these obstacles. First obstacle is that they say, people who live in the land are strong. And this is already giving them picture, if we fight with them, this is not going to be easy. A lot of us will get killed because they are strong. Second obstacle, cities are fortified. And the Hebrew word that is used here is fortified, that they are basically impenetrable. There is no way to get in. Huge walls, and the picture, even if you look at it like they start with, let's say, small giant. And now this giant slowly grows. It's not only that the people that live there are big, but cities are even bigger. They are fortified, they're huge, there's no way we can get in. And the third one, descendants of Anak. We saw there huge people. Can we show this is what I found, and this is how average men look like. These 2 is Og of Bashan, and they said that Goliath was probably this size. And this is how they guess that they probably looked like. So look at first one and look at the last one. They were big. And of course they were scared, but again, their focus was on God, was on giants. Their focus was what was happening, what they saw in the land. They completely forget about God. Even the other thing they say, they are descendants of Anak, and these are Nephilim that are mentioned in Genesis 6, and they appear to be very tall and strong, and they were danger for Israelites. If they fight with these men that are 5 times bigger than them, how many will survive? Maybe not a lot. So the fear is just growing in them. And they say Amalekites living in Negev, and if we read when Israelites got out of the Egypt, first nation that they fought against were Amalekites. You remember that story that as long as Moses had his hands up, the Israelites were winning. As he got tired and his hands went down, Amalekites were winning. That means they were killing Israelites. So they had to hold his hands, and at the end they won. But that is a bitter reminder of this nation. And spies would say, remember them? Remember how hard it was fighting them? They are living here. And not just them. They say Hittites, Jebusites, Amorites, Canaanites, people that own this land. Those were all the nations that we need to fight against. And we see how they build these giants, and fear is just growing in them. And basically what they say, entire promised land, from the mountains to the sea to the rivers, is full of these big nations with big cities, with big walls. And if, in order to win, this is possible only in wildest dreams. If you would ask them, what do you think? Can we get this land? There is no way. And when we think about ourselves, how do we react? How do we respond when we inspect the land that we go into? How often we act like those 10 spies? The city is too big, there is no way to get in. People that live there, they're too huge for us, we cannot do. And it's so easy to, instead of focusing on God, focusing on what God did in our lives, in our history, we focus on things that are in front of us, and we think it's too big for us, and it's probably too big for God. There is no way. And that's what they did. And from 12 spies, only two of them are against this. And we can read, then Caleb silenced the people before Moses and said, we should go up and take possession of the land, for we can certainly do it. And if you pay attention, Caleb is not talking only about himself. He says, we can certainly do it. And I'm sure he didn't mean like we as Israelites. He meant we as us with God. God, he remembered, he knew that they are not in this alone. He remembered that God brought them there. His focus, he and Joshua were the only two that had their focus right. They were looking into God and what God did. They saw giants, but they remembered God. They remembered how they were taken out from, even when we just look what God did in this, until they came here, he took them out of the Egypt. He brought them to the Red Sea. And when they thought this is too huge giant for us, he just opened that sea and they crossed on the other side. When Egyptian army was chasing them, they got into the sea and the sea just closed, and they saw how God killed another giant for them. In the desert, they didn't have what to eat. Every morning, they would wake up, they would go out, and they would see food. In the desert, they would see manna, and when they had enough of manna, God gave them the birds, so many birds that they could eat, that they didn't need to do anything, just to go out and pick it, like in the grocery store. And even we had pillar of light going in front of them during the night. And during the day, they had this pillar that was taking them there. And even when they were at the Mount Sinai, where God gave them the commandments, in the thunder, they heard God's voice. These were not small things. These were huge things. And where was their focus? On voice of God? Or descendants of Anak and huge walls and who knows what? They were scared and they were looking into what their eyes could see. And they forgot everything God did for them. And for them, the statement that Caleb said, we should go and we will win, for them that was crazy. For them that is like, no way, Pedro, I'm not going there. That's just like, no, 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 no. And they were focused in the wrong direction. Caleb was focused on God. Caleb knew that God is the one that promised the land. God is the one that will give them the land. Even if they need to fight, he knew that they do not go into that alone, but they go with God. And his focus was on God. And I wish that we are like them, that we are like Caleb, that our focus is on God. When issues come, when we see huge obstacles in front of us, that our eyes are on God. That we don't look at giants, but we remember God. And I'm sure that each one of us, when we look into our history, when we look into our walk with God, we can see how God works in our lives. We were all faced with things that we said in human eyes, there is no way I can do anything. There is no way I can get there. There is no way I can beat this giant. And then God shows us that He is the one that's going with us, that we are not alone. So when we are faced with giants, let's remember God. And it's interesting, we can see this positive account, and then there is this negative, what the spies see and how get they scared. And again, Caleb is then trying to assure the nation that they should go there, that they can win. And then we can see how fear escalates very quickly. And the response on Caleb's words to go and conquer the land is, but the man who had gone up with him said, we can't attack those people. They are stronger than we are. And they spread among Israelites the bad report. The spies already gave up. They already saw themselves back in Egypt or who knows where else. They themselves say, we can't attack them. They are stronger than we are. They didn't even try to get into the land, and they already gave up and decided to go back. And then this is what they say again to make the Israelites sure that, there is no way to win. The land we explored devours those living in it. All the people we saw there are of great size. We saw the Nephilim there. We seemed like grasshoppers in our own eyes. If we read at the beginning, the report is, but the people who live there are powerful, and the cities are fortified and very large. Did you notice the difference? How this suddenly became a much bigger issue than at the beginning. At the beginning, let me read one more time. The people who live there are powerful, and the cities are fortified. And then the next time when they talk about people, all the people we saw there are of great size. So basically, most of them are descendants of Anak. They're all giants. There's no one like us. They're all 10 times bigger than us. And you see how this progresses, and often this happens with us. We see the issue, and then we start putting that issue on small pieces and kind of checking it and looking from different angles. And basically, whatever angle we look at, it's just the negative. There is no, this is not possible. And every time we think about the issue becomes bigger and bigger. And this is what spies did. They were terrified of what they saw in the land. And they completely forgot that the reason why they are there in front of the land is God. Only reason why they are there because God said that He will give them the promised land. Only reason why they were out of the Egypt, out of the slavery, was because God gave them the promise. And God was the one who was taking them into the land. But for them, giants, nothing else, only giants. There is no way we can do anything here. And even to put even more fear into the Israelites, they say, that the people and the giants are sons of Anak or Nephilim. And we can see this mentioning in Genesis 6, where it says, the Nephilim were on earth in those days and also afterwards, when the sons of God came into the daughters of men, and they bore children to them. There were the mighty men who were of old, the men of renown. And this is the only place where this is mentioned, and different translators discuss like what would even this word mean. And basically, this means that they were great warriors, and something that this word also means that they were tyrants. So basically, Nephilim was expression to explain notorious reputation of being tall, fierce, and cruel. And they were supposed to fight them. The spies were terrified, and they wanted the nation to make sure that they understand what they saw there, because they are huge and they are fearful and cruel, and they are just killing everything. And even the word that they say, the land we explored devours those living in it. If land eats their own inhabitants, what will that land do to us? Why would we even go there? Let us go back. It was good in Egypt. We had food there. How many times they said that? It was better to go back. They forgot about God completely. And the last that they say, we looked like grasshoppers to them. This is not the word from the nations that live there. This was their own understanding of who they are. We are so small, we cannot, there is no way. It's better not to fight with them. They're just huge for us. Their focus was completely in wrong direction. Only 2 of them had focus on God. Only 2 of them remember what God did. Only they still remembered miracles that God performed in their lives. And it's just amazing how little it takes to get scared, and how little it takes to shift our focus from God on different things, to the dangers, to giants, and how quickly those giants can grow when we lose our focus. And it's very easy to give up. When we see the obstacles, when we see what we have in front of us, when we see how hard it is to fight with that, it's very easy to forget on whose side we are. We forget that this is, it's not first and definitely not the last time God killed a giant. And when we read just in Israel history, David was fighting with Goliath, but God was fighting for him. When we read about Gideon, he went against a huge nation with how many soldiers? God said, choose only those that drink water in a certain way. 300 men against entire army. I mean, that was huge giant, but God defeated him. And it's so easy to forget. Christ was carrying his cross to the Calvary, and he died there. But the giant death was defeated because he rose again. And how often we forget about that? How often we focus on issues, we focus on what is ahead of us, and we forget what is our focus. Caleb was sure they could take the land. He didn't forget. He remembered God even when the issues didn't look good. And Caleb didn't talk about giants. He didn't talk about cities. He didn't talk about walls. Caleb talked about God, because he knew that God is the one going forward. And the question that we can ask ourselves is, where is our focus when we are faced with giants? Do we focus on the issue, or we focus on God? Do we remember giants that we saw, or we remember God and how God worked in our lives? For Israelites, promised land was their future. It was something where they were going. And when we think about it, about our future, we know that our promised land is getting prepared and soon we will get there. But while we are on this earth, while we are fighting with giants, where is our focus? Is it on God or on the issues that we see? And when we look just into the society and when we think about some giants, I think that we can agree that our family is in crisis, our morals are in crisis, integrity, people live today as there is no God. And today everything shifted so much that what is good is considered to be bad, and what is bad is considered to be good. And those are just some of the giants that we have today. And when we look into this new generation is coming, they are in so much crisis because they don't know if they are male, female, if they're animal or tree, or Satan so much kind of shifted our mind and thinking that it's just crazy. And these are giants that we will focus very soon in our churches. We might think that, oh, there is time, maybe until it gets here, who knows when that will happen. But just a couple of weeks ago in U.S., Methodist Church had this big assembly, and they decided that gay pastors can be clergy, that gay marriages are okay. They even decided that when you talk about God, you should not talk about him in male pronoun, thank you. Because we want to be sensitive. We want to talk about God in different pronouns. And these are giants that we are facing today. We can try to avoid them, or I don't know what, but they are coming. And this is just like, it's something we need to think about when we are faced with our giants today. Where will our focus be? On what the world says, on what we are facing, or we will remember God? I am just amazed how from 12 spies, Caleb and Joshua were not afraid to talk out. They were not afraid to speak up and to be on God's side. Even entire nation, when we read further, they wanted to choose new leaders and they wanted to go back. But Joshua and Caleb stood up. And when we read later how many of the nation that came in front of the promised land, how many of them ended up in the promised land? Not many, because they wanted to go back. And today, when we are faced with giants, what is our reaction? Are we ready to focus on God? And just one example, a couple of weeks ago, Nick said that he might be leaving. And I would say that is a giant at the moment for leadership. It's a giant for all of us. And how many of you, when heard the information, said, "What now?" When Yarmila heard that the info, she was like, "Oh, what now? We will not have pastor. We need to look for another church. The church will split." And this is the way we react, and this is the way we think. We see giant, and we start thinking about the giant, and we see then bigger problem, and we start thinking about, and this giant is just growing the same way like the spies. And we very easily forgot about God. We forget that God is with us in it. Even in the worst scenario, whatever happens, God is the one that is leading his nation. How do we respond to giants? Are we ready to fight? Are we ready to stand up and speak up? And if society and all the giants that we are facing today, I think that if any in our history we needed true followers of Christ to stand up, that is today. We need believers that will that will preach God's word in its purity. It will stand to it when people see us, that they could see that we live the way we preach. That we are not afraid to stand up, to speak up, and to hold up to the truth. We are not alone. God is with us. Wherever we go, whatever giant we face, God is walking with us. And I would like to finish just with one story. One man had a dream, and he dreamt how he's walking on a beach with God. And on the sky, he could see all the scenes from his life kind of coming through, from his birth all the way to his age. And he saw that as these scenes were showing up, he looked and he could see the footprints in the sand, and he saw two footprints walking on the sand. And of course he came to the conclusion, one footprint is mine, the other one is God walking with me. And as the scenes were switching, when scenes of hard life, of issues in the sand, he saw only one pair of the footprints. And he became sad, and he looked at God, and he said, "It's not fair. You left me when I had trouble, when life didn't look easy, when I struggled with things. You left me walking alone. Where were you in those times?" Then God looked at him, and he said to him, "I did not leave you. Those footprints are not yours, but mine. I took you into my hands, into my arm, and I was walking with you." And for me, this is the picture we can remember when giants come. We are not alone. No matter what happens, we walk with God. And even if maybe things will not end up the way we want, maybe we will not defeat giants with our own idea of defeat and victory, maybe it will be different, but even no matter how it ends up, we are not alone. When we are faced with God, when we are faced with giants, let us remember God. When giants come to our life, remember God. When giants look like Nephilim, like sons of Anak, remember God. Amen.